Hey everyone, and welcome back. Coming up this week, a very impressive new tool that lets you stitch together all of the latest AI models in one infinite canvas. Perplexity CEO gives us a sneak preview of their new browser. A disturbing new study on users who are addicted to ChatGPT, plus the latest data, trends, and new tools that you can use at work. As always, if you enjoy the briefing, hit the subscribe and the like button. But before all of that, ChatGPT has released its latest image generation model this week, and the results are seriously impressive. Like Gemini Flash's image generation that was announced a few weeks back, ChatGPT's image generation is capable of all kinds of stuff, including conversational editing, as well as photorealistic text. Now, I'm sure you've seen some of the images that have gone viral over the past few days, and in particular this style, which is borrowed from Japanese anime. But I would say that based on the latest set of models, we're now at the point where it's pretty impossible to tell the difference between AI-generated content and real-world content. And as a testament to this, a new video has gone viral where users are asked to determine which of these videos are real and which ones are AI-generated. And to be honest, I actually failed at most of these examples. So take a look at some of these examples and ask yourself the question, would you be able to tell the difference between which ones are AI-generated and which ones are real? Meanwhile, as the company releases its new series of products this week, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman recently spoke about his plans for product strategy, vision, and monetization for OpenAI. This was an interview conducted with the newsletter Stratechery, but here are some key takeaways worth knowing. He talks about how ChatGPT's very simple UI actually helped it to drive adoption. He outlines his vision for OpenAI ultimately offering a small handful of multi-billion user-generated products. And he talks about monetization options too. And in this case, he says that he's skeptical of traditional advertising and instead in favor of subscriptions. But what he's most excited about is the potential for charging for automated software agents. In other news, not to be left behind, Google has unveiled its latest major AI model release with the release of Gemini 2.5 this week. The model has gone down really well and currently sits at the top of the LM Arena leaderboard. And perhaps most notably for product teams, it scored a reasonably high 63.8% score on the software engineering SWE bench test, which beats GPT's 4.5, but it still fails to surpass the current leader, which is Claude 3.7 Sonnet, which boasts an impressive 70.3% score. But despite this, one thing I've noticed is that even though it's scored lower, many commentators have said that its coding skills are actually seriously impressive. Google is also continuing with its plans to roll out Gemini everywhere it physically can, and this, in my view, does come with some downsides. So for example, this week it included something called nudges, and these are little contextual prompts which sit in Google Drive and suggest ways that users can use Gemini inside Google Drive. So for example, one of the prompts is summarize this folder. Now, in my view, these types of use cases really aren't that valuable. Like, why would I want to summarize a folder? When in the real world, I probably need to check the files themselves to understand what's in them. I would never rely on an LLM to do that for me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Are these use cases valuable to you? I'm not too sure. One use case that has shipped this week from Google that I do think is valuable though is a new update to Workspace. And this update is a small but really important update if you're somebody who uses Google Slides. And this simple change allows you to select multiple objects and, for the first time, resize them proportionally in one go. So if that's something that's been annoying you over the past few years on Google Slides, then you'll be happy to see that roll out this week. And speaking of Google, over on the Substack this week, I take a look at how you can use Google's new Gemini canvas at work. So in this knowledge series, I take a look at how AI Canvas works with some practical real-world examples that you can use at work. So I take a look at how you can build your own study guide, how you can build functional prototypes for testing out new features, create interactive process documents, and more. So if you're looking for practical ways you can use Canvas at work, then check out that knowledge series. And also on Substack this week, I take a look at the UX of notifications. After Apple botched its rollout of its AI-powered notifications, product teams, including the likes of Figma, have taken the opportunity to redesign their notifications. So if you're looking at ways to make your notifications more effective, then take a look at this analysis where I explore how 20 different companies are now redesigning their notifications. Meanwhile, Microsoft is getting its own version of deep research in the form of an AI agent called Researcher. So this AI agent will work in a similar way to its competitors, but it will be plugged into proprietary data sources that Microsoft 365 has access to. And the Microsoft VP who's leading this says that on average, it saved users during their testing, an average of 6 to 8 hours a week. So if you're looking for practical ways to use AI agents at work, then check out Microsoft's Deep Research Agent. Not to be outdone though, Perplexity is continuing to ship new features, and this week it announced the launch of a simple feature called Answer Tabs, which allows users to search for images, video, travel, shopping, and more in one place. So this adds an extra tab to your results pages, and it works a little bit like Google's search tabs, where you can filter your results in one go. And a recent head-to-head in the Wall Street Journal actually crowned Perplexity the winner of a test where Google AI Mode, ChatGPT, and Copilot were put in a competition head-to-head for e-commerce tasks. And according to the author, Perplexity was the one that impressed her the most. This week, their CEO also teased their new browser. Posting on X, the company's CEO said, "See you soon, Google Chrome," with an image of what looks like the new browser's icon. The CEO also hinted at some use cases where he said, "Imagine throwing deep research at all of your work and life context that is accessible on the web and asking AI to deeply reason, research, and figure out things for you. That will be Comet." They also shared an example of where you can use your browsing activity to write a description of you. So it sounds like the product vision for this is to take your search history or your browsing history and then use that to carry out tasks in Comet, which naturally makes sense, but we'll be hoping that Perplexity has some pretty strict privacy policies in place to ensure that your browsing data doesn't get into the wrong hands on that one. Now let's take a look at some tools you can use. And the first is a product called Flora, which has seriously impressed me this week. And Flora describes itself as an intelligent, infinite canvas that connects all of your AI tools in one place. So this is kind of like a glorified version of Miro, and it's designed for product designers and creatives to flesh out their ideas in one place. So what it does is it stitches together text, video, and image models all on one canvas. And you can actually write prompts directly inside the canvas to then bring your ideas to life. So if you're looking for new creative ways to bring your ideas to life, then Flora is definitely one to check out. The next one is one I can't actually pronounce. I know how to pronounce calligraphy, but this one is called Calligraphr without the Y on the end. And this is a very simple tool, but if you're a fan of handwriting, then what you can do is you can use Calligraphr to transform your handwriting into your own custom font. So this is perfect for those scenarios where you want to add some personalization to your communications or your marketing materials, for example. And the final product is a new AI coding startup that this week raised $52 million in funding. But the difference here is that this startup isn't competing directly with the likes of Copilot and other AI coding tools that could ultimately displace humans. Instead, this tool focuses on helping human engineers to review their code. So Graphite learns a code base and then provides features like fast code reviews and breaking long pull requests up into smaller chunks. So if you're working with engineers who are a little bit worried about the talk of AI taking over their jobs, but you want to add a little bit of AI into the mix to speed up velocity, then Graphite could be worth checking out. Now let's move on to some data and trends this week. And the first is a new study from OpenAI and MIT, which shows that using ChatGPT too much can create an unhealthy emotional dependency. So this study found that power users are most at risk of emotional dependency, particularly when they use voice mode. The study says that generally users who engage in personal conversations with chatbots tend to experience higher loneliness, and those who spend more time with chatbots tend to be even lonelier. So in this graph, you can see the numerous different emotional impacts of use of ChatGPT. And you can see that the more somebody uses ChatGPT, the more lonely they feel throughout the day, and the more dependent they become over time on ChatGPT. And each of these different lines represents the different modalities. So you've got text, neutral voice, and engaging voice. And you can see that voice tends to lead to higher levels of loneliness. So this is actually something I've seen in my own personal life, where some friends of mine have told me that they actually rely upon ChatGPT for counseling. And some people have even cancelled their human counselors because they find that ChatGPT is actually more effective. What do you think? Do you use ChatGPT as your counselor? And what impact does it have on your mental health? Next is another study that was commissioned by Google, which could have a profound impact on your product strategy. And the reason is that Google actually found that when they removed a major feature from their product, there was no change to ad revenue and very little change in usage. So in this study commissioned by Google, they removed the News tab from Google, and they found very little change in ad revenue and no change in usage. Now, Google says that they'll continue to keep news as a feature on search, but this could act as a template for deciding which features stay and which ones go. Imagine a scenario where you just switch off a feature and wait for people to complain about it And if they don't, then you pin it for good. Meanwhile, the messaging app Signal hit the headlines this week for all the wrong reasons, but its popularity doesn't seem to be dented so far this year. So far, it's now on track for a record year, and app downloads have spiked and are quickly outpacing previous years with 3 million downloads so far, which, if it continues, could see it reach 12 million downloads by the end of the year. Just be careful who you add to those chats if you are using Signal. Meanwhile, Meta has confirmed that its open source llama models have hit 1 billion downloads this month, but there are some question marks now emerging about how Meta makes money from its llama models. And this has come to light because of a lawsuit which has revealed that Meta shares a percentage of the revenue that companies hosting its models generate. Now, this lawsuit is to do with intellectual property rights, but as part of that lawsuit, it does make reference to revenue sharing agreements with companies that are hosting these open source models. As an open source model, most people assume that there is no money being generated from these, but this lawsuit suggests that might not be the case. And finally, I'll leave you with this, which is that AI-generated brain rot is going viral on Instagram. So this is a fairly disturbing trend on Instagram, which is where AI-generated videos of the most bizarre concepts are driving views and engagement. Some of these examples are pretty disturbing, so we won't go through many of those. But one example is an iPhone made of skin. So whether we like it or not, because Meta's AI policy is pretty generous in allowing this type of content, this is something that we could start to see more of. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for listening and watching. I'll be back next week with another briefing.